We are live.
Hello. Yes, we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spoilercast, the Koalition Reviews. I am your host, Dana Abercrombie, and I am joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. My camera is upside down. How are you doing, Mr. Bailey Jr.?
Doing good, Dana. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What is up, indeed? We will be talking to you about Smile 2, the very interesting sequel to Smile 1, the psychological thriller that basically asks, what is real? Because God knows we don't know. So, kind of starting off with it, just general thoughts or your immediate reaction when leaving the theater. How did you feel about this movie?
All right. Well, I went to go see this movie last night. There was a fan event that they had at my AMC that I unfortunately missed out on because I had a meeting that ran a little bit late, but I caught the screening right after that. And I have to say, I was very much excited by what I saw. I thought this was an outstanding movie. I will go ahead and make the bold statement right now. I think this has to be one of the best horror movies I've seen this year so far. Now, I don't know if that's going to change. Because I guess, there's a couple other movies that I need to see. But this movie was great, in terms of it being a sequel. Parker Finn definitely did his thing because I thought the first Smile movie was great. But he definitely went bigger and bolder with this one. And it makes me very excited to see where they're going with this franchise because I do think they can definitely make a lot more movies. But I enjoyed the sequel a lot. Yeah.
Now I kind of have to thank you, Mr. Bailey Jr., because you saw the first Smile. You saw the first one in theaters. And you kept saying, Dana, go see Smile. Go see Smile. It came on Paramount Plus. Go see Smile. I didn't. I had to go to a screener for Smile 2. I'm like, well, I better go watch Smile because why are we smiling? To me, the concept just was like, I don't understand. Why is this a horror movie about people smiling? Are we scared about happiness? I didn't get it. And I saw that first movie and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And that's when I was like, thank you. After 20 years, I finally listened to you and was like, I saw Smile. And it was just ingenious on how they used the psychology with that. And that first movie took place in there were parts that were in a mental institution because she worked in a mental hospital, and there were patients that were coming to her. And then, we saw how she ended up getting infected and how there was a lot of tricks and games that were going on with her and then the patients. And, I thought it worked really well for this setting. So when it came for the second movie, it was like, are we going back into, an institution? I didn't know because I didn't watch the trailer because that's just how disconnected I was from Smile. I'm like, it's the movie that Richard keeps telling me to watch, but I never got around to seeing it. So I came in knowing nothing. I was like, what is a pop star? What's going on? I don't get it. But when I saw the first movie, I was very excited to see Smile 2. And then when I saw Smile 2, I was like, they completely blew the first movie out of the water. This is better than the first, like 1,000 miles. It was really smart and really innovative of how they just did the whole thing and the whole, the concept was completely different. They made it much bigger, which is the whole point. We'll get into the whole reasoning as to why it was bigger. And even that fact, it was like, oh, wow. And at the end, spoiler review, I'm like, they really achieved it. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like, you could just make a whole series about this.
Oh, yeah.
This is genius. So, kind of like we go into talking about Smile. So, right after that, in the movie, this takes place 6 days after the first Smile. We're not like years later. This is 6 days after the events of the first Smile, and we saw Rose Carter committed suicide by, what do they call it? Embalming? She set herself on fire. And we said Joel attempted to, I think Joel got infected and he attempted to pass the Smile curse into like there were two like drug dealers in their little meth house. I'm like, where are we going with this? The two drug dealers in the meth house, and so the rules are, it has to kill you. Either it kills you, or you can kill yourself before it kills you, which no one wants to do. Which is the big plot for Smile 2, or you have to kill someone to pass it on, right? Does it work by you kill them? No, that doesn't make any sense. You got to pass the smile on to other people before you're completely infected. I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's essentially what it is. What I thought. Let me just say this. Very smart thinking. You have to kill
someone, and then the witness gets it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. You got it right there. So
let
me just say. So let me just say this. Though, very smart thinking with how they use the Joel character, because obviously we know he is a police officer, and passing that on to a criminal, that is a very smart way to write that character. And I do want to give them credit, because when the trailer was released, and the first trailer that they released was Smile 2, and they showed Skye Riley, there were a lot of people complaining about, well, what happened to the guy from the previous movie? And I knew that obviously you have to explain how it passes on from him to somebody else. So I know people were going to be a little worried about that, because they didn't see him at all in the trailer. But I thought the way they handled that was outstanding, because again, it showed, and you understand from the standpoint of why he wanted to pass it on to a criminal. He didn't want to give it to anybody else that was considered an innocent person, but it didn't work out that way. So I think they did an excellent job with explaining that right there in the very beginning.
Yes. Even the concept of it is really good. You have to kill someone and make sure there's a witness, and then that's how it passes to that witness. It's like, oh, okay, that's insane. Or I think it is also you kill yourself in front of someone, and then that's how you get it.
Yeah, because they witness you. They're traumatized by you seeing you take yourself out. So
right. I'm like, that's genius. So even how they did Joel was a really great way of how they wrapped up the first movie and continued with the second movie. So what they had is they completely botched the whole thing in a way, because there was the two criminals, and he accidentally killed one of the criminals, which he's not supposed to do. And he killed what was supposed to be the witness. So both people are dead. But then, then there was a drug dealer who happened to also be there, who saw everything. So like, you won by chance. So you're like, okay, this is great. Look, Joel is free, so now maybe this is a Joel movie. And he meets this pop star, and he's protecting her, and he's a security guard or something. But then it completely does like this trick where it transfers into the drug dealer, but then Joel ends up getting hit by a truck, and there's no coming back from that accident. He's a mess. He is just intestines and blood, and so he did it. And I thought that was so smart to wrap up one movie and to continue with another one. But what happens ends up being Joel is a drug dealer that has connections to Skye Riley, which is played by Naomi Scott. So that was kind of the literal conclusion of Smile 1 and the literal introduction to Smile 2. And now, instead of being in wherever we're at, it was a small town, it seemed to be, we're in New York City. And the one thing that we know about New York City, a lot of people are in New York City. There's a lot of things going on, and a lot of witnesses in New York City. So I thought that was just genius. So we're introduced to Skye Riley, who is played by Naomi Scott, who is absolutely amazing in this entire movie. So, what are your thoughts on Naomi Scott?
Oh, I thought she did a phenomenal job in this movie. I know a lot of the early screening impressions were saying that that she was fantastic in the movie. She stood out a lot. She really thrived in the role, and I think they are 100% on point. I would take it a step further and say the entire cast for this movie was outstanding. But her character in particular, the struggles that she had, and this is one thing that I do like about this movie and the previous movie, because the main character had some type of dark past, something that happened in their past, and you learn about it as the movie continues. So with this character in particular, a lot of stuff she's going through with the trauma of the accident that she was in, and then just the overall stress that she's feeling of being on this tour. And we'll get into this later, but this is why this is an excellent concept for a movie, because not only did it show the horror of the creature, it showed the horror of being a pop icon and how stressful it is to be a celebrity and go through all of this type of stuff. After watching this, I feel like I'm glad I'm not a famous person, because that would be quite a lot to deal with. So they really nailed that for sure.
That's true. I never thought of it that way, because we see the glitz and the glamour, but then we realize the pure like anxiety it is of being, a big Grammy-winning pop star.
Absolutely.
Which to me, she sounded like so basic. I was like, yeah, she's a pop star, because that voice is not voicing, but she did a lovely job in terms of just being like, you expect like a big grand voice, but I'm like, no, she sounds like today's music, so it was very modern. But I absolutely adore Naomi Scott. She did it. She was fully committed to me, and you have to be, because it's really easy to like make this a one-dimensional movie, especially in horror. I'm scared. Something's after me. But she didn't do that at all. She gave layers and layers, and there was context to everything, the backstory, and you felt her complete exhaustion and pain, and that mother of hers, Jace Louise, I was ready to strangle her for her. And it because it does a really great job of also showing that, yeah, you're a pop star and you're famous, but you have to do so many things that you're doing for other people that you don't even have a say. It's the record labels and touring. And what about this money? And then that one doesn't get paid. And if you decide to cancel a tour, it's not just you owing the studio back. All of the jobs that people rely on are not there. And that's just the sheer weight of everything. And so it was great. They did this, and she had a substance abuse problem with that. She was trying to cope, and it goes, with her past of essentially being high. She had a car crash that was absolutely terrible, that killed her boyfriend, who was an actor, Paul Hudson, who ended up being played by Jack Nicholson's son.
Can I just make a comment? This guy looks exactly like his father. I mean, the smile, he looks exactly like his father. I'm like, and it's funny because a lot of the posters they were posting for the movie, he was in the poster. So I was like, oh yeah, that's an awesome marketing campaign. But yeah, that man looks just exactly like his dad. It's scary.
It was like, this is really good. So, the pressures of everything between, the boyfriend dying, substance abuse problems. She went to rehab. Now she's out of rehab. And to me, it's like she's just back into the thick of it. That probably also caused her going into rehab. So there's really she has no say in anything. And then you have the mother, who is played by Rosemarie DeWitt, who is brilliant in her just narcissism, because it's not even a mother. That's the problem when you have momagers. They're more manager than mom. And I don't think there was ever a moment where she became a mom. So how did you feel about her performance?
I thought she did an outstanding job. I'm glad that they showed that, because obviously, if you are a popular person in the industry, so on and so forth, like you said, you're doing a lot of stuff for other people. But to have someone who is the only person you consider your loved one, who is also saying, yeah, you need to, I know you're not feeling well now, but you need to get back to work ASAP. That was just that, as a fan, that made me want to see something happen to that character. I mean, I have to be honest. So when something did happen, I did, I laughed a little bit when I saw that. But it's like they make you understand. But the explanation she gave made sense when she said, what we're doing, a lot of people are depending on this because everybody is working off of this. You understand that. But still, for a second, this is your daughter. You should have a different type of relationship and understand if she's going through all this stuff, maybe it's not a good idea. She needs to take some time off. So I think she did an outstanding job playing that character. It's a very complex situation. But I'm glad they put that in the movie to show that, because obviously we know in the industry, I'm pretty sure stuff like this happens where there are people who are supposedly your manager, so on and so forth. They're in it because they want you to succeed, but they also want, to make sure the money is still flowing in their way as well. So it works both ways. So I'm glad they portrayed that in the movie for sure.
Right. So then also what I kind of wonder with this, because, she ends up, there's so much on top of that. Plus she still has the back injury from when she had the car accident and she had to do surgery. And, she's trying to be sober, but that pain is hitting. So she needs Vicodin, which she doesn't have. She ends up dropping whatever pills she had down the sink by accident. Just because of the sheer amount of stress that she's in. And she ends up trying to buy Vicodin, and she ends up buying it from the drug dealer who witnessed the crime.
Yeah, Lewis.
Lewis, the drug dealer. And this was how everything kind of came to be. He ended up buying the drugs from him. He is completely under the curse. And as we all know, the curse kills you by making you kill yourself. And it was a lovely smashing job with him basically smashing. This is the most brutal thing I've ever seen. He smashes his face with a weight plate. Those big circular ones that you see like big strong men would lift and eat. And because she sees that, she's completely traumatized, as anyone would be. And she just flees the apartment. She doesn't call anybody. But in a way, I wanted to know this. Do you blame Skye's mother for putting her into that situation where she would need the Vicodin, because she constantly is being pushed?
Yeah.
Because she needs the Vicodin. Do you blame the mother, or do you blame Skye for putting her own self in that kind of situation?
That's a great question. Well, yes, the mom to an extent has definitely pushed her daughter throughout this entire movie. In this particular situation, I kind of feel like Skye also was pushing through as well. We saw various points in this movie where she was saying, no, let's keep going, let's keep doing, let's do this again, take it from the top. So she also pushed herself. But I will say this, though. When she went to Lewis's door, he threatened her with the sword. At that point, I would have said, to hell with the drugs. Let me get the hell out of here. That's why I was like, come on now. You don't just stand there, but you need it so bad. Clearly, this guy is unhinged. I will be out of there immediately. So I thought that was very interesting. And I'll make this point as well. The way that this movie handles comedy stuff as well, fantastic. Some of the funny stuff that they say in the movie and they do is hilarious. So yeah, I think they did a good job on that. But yeah, once he did that, I would have been out of there. There wouldn't have been a chance to get the Vicodin. That's it.
Yeah. Once that sword came out and he was flipping out and saying, looking like he was very paranoid. That was like, oh, it's my time to go. Because then he was taking too long. And then I would have been like, yeah, he's taking too long. Let me just go. And I would have just left at that point. Because he's taking too long. There's no lights in the house. It's a little creepy. There's the whole bag. It's not just like a Scarface pile of coke that he's doing. It's not even like, here's a line. Because you saw like, it was like the nice little lines and it was just like a little mound.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a
It
lot.
was a lot. But that's how she ends up getting the curse. And what I love about it is you don't know that you're cursed. You don't, it's not like, oh, and then a breeze comes by your face. You're terrified, and she just was running out the house when he smashed his face in. She didn't call anybody. But then I was like, I know it would be really bad publicity, but even if you leave like an anonymous 911 call of like, hey, there's my neighbor is acting erratic, and then hung up a wellness check. I heard, smashing and screaming. You could have easily done a wellness check. Or, what I mean, like an anonymous call. But she didn't even do
that. That's true. She could have did that. She also got sick at the crime scene. And again, with the comedy, because they had a scene where she's looking up on her phone. Well, is it possible for there to be DNA if you vomit somewhere? This is why I say funny stuff like that, because the audience was laughing when they saw that in my screening, because it's like, but yeah, I understand why she didn't want to call while she was there, because she saw the drugs there, and then in that situation, it would have been bad either way. But anonymous tip could have worked after she left, I'm assuming. But again, she didn't clean up when she vomited, so that probably would have been bad if they did a DNA test or something.
That was absolutely hilarious, and it was like, yes, your DNA is there. That's why they said contaminate the crime scene. Because I've seen like multiple TV shows or like even movies where this person like they see the body, oh my god, and it's like, oh, you contaminated the scene. Like that was hilarious. There were a lot of funny moments within this, but then here's just like the big main one that they introduced was the character of Gemma. Gemma is an ex-friend. They had a huge falling out. Cursed at each other and never spoke again. And then, longest story short, they reconnect. And Gemma is like a ride or die. Mm-hmm. Were your any thoughts on Gemma? And like, cause remember when she was like, she didn't even knock at the door. Cause remember, Skye was freaking out. This is when the hallucination started. This is how the curse kind of manifests itself. A lot of hallucinations. You start seeing things. Your body just doesn't feel right. You had people are, distorted voices, and then you get the people smiling at you like, and creepy smiles. A lot of creepy smiles that are going on, and then you had the huge fundraising charity event. That was beautiful.
That teleprompter.
The teleprompter was not working when she had to go and give a nice little, you give a nice little speech. The children are our future. Teach them well and help them lead the way. Yay! Everyone claps. And then you just leave, and it did not work at all. And this is when she started to go on a tirade about how fame has not solved any of her problems, or brought her any kind of happiness or joy. And then that's when she sees Paul, and she completely freaks out. But Paul is a hallucination, and that poor elderly lady gets tossed into the table. And so after those events, it's how she connected Jennifer. So that was when we made the big grand debut of Paul as basically his dad. So we have Jack Nicholson Jr. That's when he came down there. So thoughts on Jack Nicholson Jr. and Gemma.
Okay, Gemma that's an outstanding actress that played her as well. It's funny you say she is a ride or die, because she literally is a ride or die, and we'll get into that later. But I just love how this movie does a fantastic job of making you believe something, and then it's a totally different situation. I thought that the whole thing about the speech, that was a fantastic scene, and it's something as simple as reading the teleprompter, but she's freaking out because she sees him in the audience, and then then at one point there's nothing on the teleprompter, so she ad-libs to say what she thinks she wants to say, and even if it's brutally honest, but the brutal honesty is what was needed to be said to really let someone understand if you want to pursue music or get in the career in any type of industry, you better be prepared for the ups and downs. And there's definitely going to be some downs. But no, I thought that was fantastic. And again, and yes, now I will say this, the movie did have some jump scares in there. I didn't mind them too much. They were pretty hilarious to me, some of them. But this one with the woman getting knocked off and onto the table, that was hilarious. I have to say, listen, much respect to the elderly people. I hope she is all right, but that was a funny scene. I have to say that was funny. And it happened so quick because again, she thought it was her ex. So very crazy.
It was absolutely brilliant, that scene. What was really sad, once again, going with the mother, because the mother was in the audience as well. The mother was in the audience, the assistant was in the audience, the guy who asked her was like, in the audience. But it was interesting that even in that moment of truth and honesty, no one listened to her. No one listened to her.
No one.
They just, blamed it on her, saying, what is this mess? And was just basically perturbed, and the dinner was ruined. And granted, to the poor elderly woman, that was terrible. But before that, still nobody listened to her. They were just horrified that she would go off script.
Oh yeah. And to go to Gemma, Gemma did the Gemma that we were introduced to earlier in the movie. She was there. She was there for her friend. She listened to her. She slept over, and then they had that whole scene where she says she's a horrible person. She wakes up. What did you say? And then you see that smile. That should have been an indicator. Wait a minute, this individual is not, Gemma. But obviously, then and that's the other thing that I really like too. And I don't remember if this was in the first movie, the way they progressed time so gradually. Because that scene where she had the interaction with Gemma, and then all of a sudden she gets up. But wait a minute, it's already morning time. It was nighttime when this happened. So that again, this creature is very brutal in terms of once it gets a hold of you, it really distorts everything mentally. Everything is off. And again, with how unstable Skye was, with all the other stuff she was dealing with, it's totally believable. Everything would spiral the way it did in this movie, because there's a lot of things that happened that she went through, but then to have this as well latched onto her, yes, not a good situation.
No, and that Gemma to me was ride or die, because remember, she was freaking out because she was seeing and hearing things, and she happened to open the door because she was about to run out, and that's when Gemma was like, "What's going on?" She was like, "I'm seeing, there's someone in here." And instead of like fleeing, she grabbed that, what was it, a candlestick holder, and she was ready to bash people in the brains too. So I really do like that. But then this is kind of what I was wondering. When you're under the hallucination spell curse thing, it makes you see what you want to see. Because if you look at it, they had that falling out. Right? She knew that Gemma wasn't gonna respond to her, because the last text messages was like, "F you, I can't stand you."
Yeah.
But she came there like a ride or die. So I was wondering, does the curse make you see what you want to see? In a way, it haunts you because I'm sure she doesn't want to see Paul, but she wanted to see Gemma. She wanted that relationship again.
That it makes you see what you want to see. It sends you unsolicited messages, text messages. It makes you believe. It makes you believe that there's someone out here to help you, and that person is it. So you are completely. If you ever come under this curse, it's game over. You can let it play out over the 6 or 7 days, but you're a goner. From the minute that you get that curse, you are a goner, because this entire movie, even though it felt as though there was some hope for the character to have some type of positive outcome or get over this, there was never any hope from the beginning. And that's what I think is just so, that's why I say that this creature is by far one of the most brutal creatures that I've seen in a horror movie. I don't know, like I said, we'll get into that later. When they have other movies, I don't really know if there's any way to stop this this thing once it latches on to people. It doesn't feel that way. But no, yeah, it makes you see and do everything, but really it's all a hallucination. It's not real.
So then it kind of goes into the introduction of the unknown man, and I was wondering, is the unknown man for me a weakness? You know, because you know how you always have someone in those horror movies. Well, I know the history of this great entity. Back in 1859, there was a girl in Russia or Spain or whatever it is. So to me, I was wondering, did that feel like a cheap kind of way to insert explanations? You know, we've seen things like this before. Is that what you say? Because to me, it felt kind of like a weakness, because it was just a random contact out of the blue. Oh, I want to meet you. I know who you are. I'm essentially stalking you. It always seems to have information.
I do agree that it is a weakness. If I was to correct something about the movie, and you want to make somebody that knows something about all that happened, why not go to one of the characters from the first movie? You know, when you had the main character working at that mental institution, and there were people that were there around her boss as well, that knew that there was something going on with her. I think it would have been somewhat better to go back to that, to say that there is somebody that you, because as a viewer, you saw the first movie, you remember some of the characters in that movie. So I'm thinking that it would have been better to have someone else from that movie that knew about the victim that we saw in that movie, Rose, basically be the one to say, hey, this happened to somebody I know, to connect it further. Because what they basically was talking with that guy, with the character they introduced, he was talking about it happened to his brother, but then he was saying it happened to all these other people that we don't know about because they weren't even explored in the previous movie. We knew about the student that obviously was the first one that came to Rose and, you know, took herself out. So I do agree it would have been better to introduce us to, well, have us be reintroduced to somebody that was in the previous movie instead of this other character. But again, that was all a ploy. That was all a tactic to get to basically get you know, things to go the way they did. So very, very interesting strategy.
And here's another thing that I was wondering, because it was interesting that there was a hospital connection, unless I got the person completely wrong. So you remember in the first movie, she had a patient who, we never saw the patient, but she said, you know, I had to deal with this patient who ate her hair. She pulled her hair out and ate it.
Mm-hmm.
And we do know that's what Skye Riley did.
Yep.
It's part of her, also her condition. And we see it in this movie that she pulls her mother, once again, does not care. We put a wig on. I hate the mother so much. But we saw that the whole, like, if you're like a hair thing where you're like, I can't see, like the one thing that, you know, people like, I can't do teeth, I can't do blood. Hair. It's a lot of hair pulling. So she has that condition. You pull the hair out and she sometimes she eats it. Other times she just pulls it out. But there was a patient, she said, pulled her hair out and ate it. So I was wondering, because it was in the flashback, I mean, she had black hair. I was wondering, could that have been the connection where she was in that hospital with her? And it would have been interesting if, we do know that Morgan was a nurse, but they never stated which hospital he lived in. He just knew that his brother was infected, and he ended up, how did it do? He beat himself with like a wrench. It was a lot of things with teeth.
Something like a crowbar or something, and pulled out his it was some type of thing he did to pull his jaw out. Yeah.
And that was it's very gruesome. But that's how he knew that that's how the curse can basically be transferred to any witness who observes the death caused by someone who was afflicted. But I really wish that we would have had like a definitive connection because to me, I could just theorize that she was the girl who pulled her hair out. So we could have
I
like, even if it was like a run by real quick, we saw her face. It's like the nurse.
I I agree 1000%. They could have done that. And yes, I believe you are correct. They did allude to this in the first movie about, Rose did mention she had a patient like that. I don't think at the time when they made that movie, they knew it was going to
Right.
become what it was. But they
Right.
absolutely could have referenced that in this movie and just said, this is who that individual was. Or even, like I said, Rose had a lot of different patients, right? If this guy was a patient, his brother was a patient of Rose, they could have made that connection as well and say, yeah, there was a doctor that was trying to take care of my brother, and this happened to her. They could have found a way to connect that better, and that would have made sense to connect from the first movie to the second one. But of course, they did focus on Joel, which I think was important because, like I said, people was asking a lot of questions. What happened to this character after the first movie? So I understand that, but yeah, they absolutely could have made that connection. When they mentioned the hospital, that was something that could have been connected a lot better, for sure. I agree 100%.
Right. And then kind of this is how we get into kind of even more of a backstory. Well, first of all, Morris states that he knows how to kill the entity, which is basically he has to kill you. And then when you die, when you flatline, they bring you back to life. I'm like, oh, so they use the plot of Flatliners. Okay. But there was like no proof in it. It wasn't like I did this before and saved someone's life. It was just a random theory of let me kill you. And of course she's like, no, and she starts freaking out. And because she's like, this is ridiculous, and essentially you have to die. So anyone would freak out with this entire situation. And then what I love is the most wonderful creative part of horror I've ever seen in my entire life is that she has a hallucination. And we get those backup dancers. And that scene, I'm like, I don't know what in the Alvin Ailey was going on, but that was the greatest scene I have ever seen with those background dancers basically chasing her throughout her entire apartment.
Yes, that was outstanding. Yeah, that goes to show you they, like I said, he really, like when he came up with the concept for this movie, you really think through what all goes into being in this type of field as a performer. And I think they did an excellent job of incorporating the dancing into that because in the trailer, they did show that a bit of that scene. I wish they didn't, but the trailer has to sell the movie. So they always show a lot of stuff in the trailers that they shouldn't be showing too much of. But I saw that and I said, oh, that looked very interesting when I saw that. It made me laugh a lot more. So yeah, they did a great job with that. 100%.
But then here's another question that I have about the movie and about the entity. I'm kind of wondering now, do people who get infected kind of deserve it? Because then we have a flashback scene. We assume that she got into a car accident with Paul, which is the boyfriend, and that's how he ended up dying. But we actually discover she intentionally got into a fight. She agitated him on purpose, grabbed the wheel, and purposely crashed the car, thus killing him. So my question is, does she deserve? Because after all of this, I'm like, I think she deserves this. So do you feel that she deserves to be cursed?
She 1000% deserved to be cursed because she was dealing with the past. And again, this is what I mean about it being a very well-written movie, because throughout the entire movie, you get all the answers about this character. You understand what they went through beforehand, but then you also understand this character has some type of secret that they are harboring, which is the real reason, because they keep referencing their crash, what happened, and all this other stuff. And then you find out through the flashbacks, oh yeah, she did cause this. So I would make the argument that yes, she did deserve that outcome. I would have to go back and watch The First Smile. You've seen it more recently, so I don't know if Rose deserved the outcome. Maybe she did too. I don't remember what. I know there was a history, a backstory with her mom and stuff like that. I don't know if she deserved the outcome, but this character 1,000% deserved what happened to her in this movie, I think, because and then the other thing about, when you go into when you become popular or famous or whatever, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that she left behind. Maybe she cut people off, and I believe that is to the extent of her relationship with Gemma, because whatever they had, some type of argument, she didn't want to have nothing to do with her. She didn't talk to her for a whole year. So obviously, when you get into this position of fame or whatever, you forget about others that were around you from time to time. We didn't see too much of this in this movie, but she did say, anything I have, I destroy. Any relationship I have, I destroy. So she was at least acknowledging the fact that she played a role in a lot of the stuff that she did. But I still think she definitely deserved the outcome that happened to her in this movie.
See, this is where I disagree. When she says those words, everything around me, I destroy. To me, it didn't feel like ownership. It felt more like, just like that some mopey teenager. The words that you hear constantly in movies. You don't want to get to know me because I'll destroy you. That kind of thing. It never, to me, she never took responsibility. So when she saw Paul, because we didn't have that information when we first saw Paul pop up at the charity event where she, ended up having that meltdown and pushed the old lady. To me, it was never like, I'm sorry. Even if she started screaming, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. She never did that. It was just more of like her being scared and like, stay away from me. That kind of thing. She never took ownership in anything. Even the relationship with Gemma, she never took ownership and spoke like an actual adult of saying, I am sorry. Here is why I am sorry. It was always like a runaway type of thing. And so that just, knowing that we know men, she's a terrible person. Even if you can argue, well, she was under a drug-induced state. Okay, but when you come out of that, and now your boyfriend's haunting you, I'm sorry. I don't know. Even Gemma, who you assume is like a real person, I'm sorry for this and this and this. I felt in a weird way that the entity or the subconscious, because it's kind of viewed as subconscious, because they even played it in the first movie, where remember, it's she in the first movie she had that destructive relationship with her mother. Her mother was very abusive, and it was a lot of mental illness. And that's what I think they did a really great job of doing. A lot of mental illness. But with this one, it was, I forgot my train of thought. But the point is, I'm saying is that I just kind of wish that she would have just apologized and would have been an adult. And even if it's the strained relationship that she had with her mother, I don't know. It just came across as disingenuous in a way.
I agree 100% with the point that you made. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, if she did make amends to all of these characters, do you still think she deserved the outcome of what happened to her later in this movie?
I don't know. See, that's the question of like, how much punishment do you want? Because it wasn't like he been dead. Like he just kind of died. In terms of like, I believe it was still within a year.
Yeah, it was.
So it was maybe like a year later, you murdered your boyfriend. Even if it was a drug-induced situation, you murdered your boyfriend. Many people get high. Well, that's a bad thing because you have a whole killing channel of people who get high and start killing others. But still, it's terrible. I don't know. I kind of feel like she deserved it.
Yeah, I think she deserved it. And like you said, she didn't really take accountability for the stuff that she didn't really, like you say, no ownership.
No.
I think she deserved the outcome. And the other thing is, and again, this goes to show how a lot of the people that were fans of her, this didn't change how they viewed her. They were still like, oh, this is a huge star. Let me get your photo. Let me get your autographs and stuff like that. But they don't really know this person has a different life outside of what all the stuff that has happened. They didn't stop to think. I didn't see one character in this movie that stopped to think she could have had something to do with what happened with this accident with the other guy, with her ex. They all were like, oh, they was like, oh, so glad that you're back to deliver great music. And I think that's a very interesting decision, to not have any character that will question whether or not she was a good, she was truly a good person. But yeah, I agree. I agree. She definitely deserved the outcome, though.
But then here's the other question is, would anyone have cared? Because she has, money. I'm wondering if the mother actually knew that she intentionally tried to kill Paul, would she have that? Would she try to sweep it under the rug and be like, oh, everyone, it's a drug-induced situation. It was a terrible car accident. Or would she hold her to some kind of accountability? And I don't think that she would have. So in a way, I'm like, well, maybe
my guess is that the mom would have still tried to clean up the situation, make sure she is all right, and we still got a business to run. You go ahead, get better, rehab, whatever, and then you come right back. We need to go on tour. I think she still would have been the same way. And again, I don't think she would have had any actual care and concern for her daughter as, this is somebody who I care about. Oh, I do care about this person, but I also care about, we need to get this money. So I think the mom would have been the same way. She would have made sure it looked like an accident and she wasn't involved, that it was all the boyfriend that did this. And let's just get through this, and then let's get back to business as usual.
Yeah. And then once again, I kind of wonder, did the mom deserve it? Because it wasn't like it was the assistant she killed.
Yeah.
The boy who was running around helping her. She killed her mom. Like, the people who died in this kind of seem like, hey, you kind of deserved it. So then, not to say that the mom just, she never listened to her. She was all about the money. Even when, the dancers came, and then that's it. Apparently they found her with a concussion. She fell and had a concussion. It's kind of hard to explain. Hey, my dancers were chasing me and trying to kill me. I get that point. But even when she's in the wellness center, because she's like, are you okay? Are you drunk? Because remember, before that also, there was like the trashing of the dressing room. And she flipped out. She flipped out on off the she flipped out on the dude with the dude who was
assistant.
The dude.
Her assistant.
The assistant. She flipped out on the assistant. The assistant was with her. Was with the mom all day. It was.
Listen, that was hilarious. The way that he did the smile, walking out of the room. I laugh when I saw that, because I also would be like, well, hold on, what the hell? You just trashed my room. When you see that, obviously it wasn't real, but I laughed when I saw that, because he was very convincing with that smile. It looked very demented the way he was smiling when he was walking past her.
It was. Did we ever get an answer to who trashed the room? Was it her?
That's a great question. We did not get an answer to that. They could have put a clip in there to suggest that's what was happening. We saw a couple of scenes where she was seeing something that no one else was seeing, but they definitely could have put a scene in there to show her doing that to the room. But we didn't get no confirmation of that.
We never got a confirmation. I'm just like, I don't remember that ever happening. Like, someone, an entity, some demons was trashing that room, and they trashed it really well. But even then, when she blamed the assistant, and the mom was like, he was with me all day. Again, no care. And then after the whole concussion, and they put her in a wellness center because they don't know what's going on with her. She has been acting very erratic. And she has a conversation. Are you using again? That right there would have been the opportune time to be like, it's okay. We need to have a break. Mm-hmm. I care about you. Let's put the manager aside on mom. but she was 100% just manager through and through, where she just didn't care. And then this is what I was kind of wondering: did she deserve it? I'm kind of feeling like, hey, if
Well,
the entity, if it's based on your mind and your subconscious, I'm just wondering, was like, oh, I wish I could kill you, Mom, and then she actually died.
well, I would make the argument that the demon or entity version of the mom 1000% deserved what happened to her. Now let's recap that she is the one that was killing herself. You know, we can make the argument that Skye was like, yeah, Mom, I want you to just go away. But we saw her physically slicing and dicing and all this other stuff. So that's why I say the way she treated her daughter, this version of the mom, it's not the real mom. She 1000% deserved to get taken out the way she did. Even if by her own hands, but it's all a hallucination. But what I find interesting is the way they showed after she did that, now the blood is all over Skye and she has the glass in her hand. That again, that's yeah, very, very creative way to do it, because like you said, she probably would feel, oh, Mom, I just want something bad to happen to you. And she played a role in that. So, but yes, I think the mom deserved that outcome. That version of the mom. I have to make it clear, that version of the mom.
But see, I don't know. See, this I think mom deserved it just in general, because even before, here's the thing, because she never stuck by her daughter's side. She never stated, I'm here for you. Never stated, let's stop with the tour. It wasn't until she physically got into a car accident that we know of, where she couldn't physically perform.
Mm-hmm.
It was internal bleeding, which is when she took that year-long break. And if you're, again, I don't think a year is enough for, like, not just a car accident and the trauma of a car accident. We don't know that she killed him, but he died. And that was the boyfriend. Yeah. And she woke up to a dead body in the car. So the trauma alone impacted with this, the trauma of being a pop star itself. There's so much trauma that is in this movie that, you know, I think she's been like this from the beginning. And then she gave the woe is me speech. Remember with the mom? I have sacrificed my life for you. I have made sure you went this and you did this and you did that. And then I'm wondering, I'm like saying, okay, she's an adult now. She's made her fame. She's a Grammy Award winning singer. You can get another manager. Like,
absolutely.
When does she start taking responsibility for her own self and her own life again? And then I'm kind of wondering, does she want this more than her daughter? Because you see your daughter in pain, and you can both take the break. Like, hey, 2 for 1 deal.
I agree 100% with everything you say. And one other point that I will add to what you said, I agree on everything you said, but I also would ask the question, and this is a question to think about. It's also a question for anyone that decides to comment on this review. At what point in this movie did anything actually take place in reality? Because what I'm thinking is that when she went to go get those the Vicodin, from that point onward, I'm thinking the entire rest of the movie, none of that happened until the very end when you saw what happened. So that's why it makes me wonder, but I'm pretty sure this was intentional, because they want people to have discussions like these to wonder what was real and what wasn't real. So that my question is, if the mom truly is that way, did any of that stuff happen that we saw, or was it all fake? And I think that's a great question to ask, because I don't even know the answer to that question. So
to me, it felt like when the drug dealer Lewis died, that's when everything was fake. When he died, and she ran out of the apartment.
So you think everything was real after that?
Everything? No. Once she ran out the house, everything was fake.
Okay, yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think too. But again, the way they phrase it as it was business as usual. Let me get ready for my rehearsal, and then stuff starts to happen. It makes you wonder, because they even had scenes where she would hallucinate, and then she would find out, oh, that's not real. People like, hey, hold on, you all right? What's wrong with you? So it really plays mind tricks with you to understand what was real and what wasn't real. And even when we get to what happened in the final act of the movie, of all the stuff leading up to her going to, the freezer and by the way, that should have been a red sign where he said, meet me at Staten Island, going to some Pizza Hut. Was it Domino's or Pizza Hut to do this procedure? Come on now, man. That's very shady. This guy ain't no damn doctor. So that's why I was like, yeah, that should have been a red flag. This isn't real. But yeah, they're very smart with playing the mind games, because it makes you wonder, at what point was this real and was nothing else real? And I think, like you said, once she left Lewis's place, at that point, it was already, that was it. At that point, it's a fair game. Everything that happened wasn't real, but it looked like it was real. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but you see, I'm also wondering, it also plays in a desperation, and the more desperate you are, the more of a playground it has in your mind, because you have the dead body situation, right? That you're like, oh my God, there's a dead body. I hope no one catches me. You have the mom. Oh my God, my mom's trying to kill me, in terms of just the schedule itself. Remember, she said that you'll never understand what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And I think the mom said that, but they have two different ways of looking at stuff. Because the mom was like, well, you don't understand what I'm going through. And, and so that right there is another fracture of the mind. Then you have just the fans in general. They did such a really great job at showcasing fans. Because remember how we had they was like, oh yeah, I'm happy to be here. There's the creepy girl who was the smiling one who deserves all the awards. But then there was that that gross fan who like had
that was disturbing.
On the face and the scabs, and it was like, I love you. That thing was just like gross. So you
very
have
disturbing.
The fandom itself. So that's fracturing of the mind. Remember, she also has to constantly smile, even before the entity got here. She has to constantly smile, and I think because the mind is so fractured, and because you're so desperate in that moment, even before the curse hits, I think that it opens more of the playground area, so that it can, in a way, give you everything that you want, or everything you think you want. Mom's gone, so if mom's gone, in general, if they never catch you, you have an opportunity to live the life that you want to live. To me, she does never something like she was happy to be famous. She gave that whole speech about like, this is the downside of fame. I hate it here. I don't want it no more. The fans are terrible. The men are trying to like grab her and grope her and you're in love with you and stalk her half death. So you have that going on. And so it just and I don't know. I think it's weird how this whole thing came, and then you had the mom. That poor thing with the mom, she deserved it, but that was terrible. And I love how they did it, where it was like she slit her throat, with the piece of glass. And then how did she get stabbed? Somehow she got stabbed up. But you realize
she did all covered. She did all this to herself. The mom did all this to herself, and then Skye looks up, and now she has the glass in her hand when she gets ready to leave the room. So that's. Now I will say, when she was leaving the room, she still had that gown on. I was like, why would you leave the room? You had all this blood on that gown. There's no clothes in there that you can't put some clothes on. So I say, yeah, this is not going to end well.
Well, she just wanted to get away from her mom,
Yeah.
And again, that worked. She fled from her mom after she killed her. But she fled. I was like, oh, is this a white moment? Because if she was black, she was covered in blood.
Oh, absolutely.
That gun, I was no, this is kind of understandable because remember they stopped her. She was covered in blood and still the blood dripping down. And he was like, excuse me, she needs help. You know, everybody flipped out. The assistant flipped out. He's a terrible assistant, by the way. Not a ride or die at all. See, Gemma's a true ride or die. Gemma would have been like, come over here. She would have been like the distraction as Skye was just walking the other way. But he's like, oh my God, we need help over here. Ignorant. And she's like, shh. And he's like, why are you telling me to shush? He's terrible. Just terrible. But yeah, so, you know, but once she grabbed that gun, I was like, oh snap. That was good. No one shot her. There was no other like security officer there. I guess that was like the fancy rich wellness centers. It wasn't like, you know, Pookie and them go to the mental institution. So that's, you know, only one person with a gun, only one cop blocking the door. So that was good though. And she grabbed that gun. And then Gemma, see, everything that she wanted, you ever notice that? Happens to come. Yep. Gemma magically appeared. She just magically was there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here and I'm going along with the ride, like, yay. And Gemma was just magically, I was. And then we realized that Gemma wasn't real. We realized, you know, ride or die. The whole ride or die. The whole audience was like, what?
Yeah, that was. That's why I say that they went really crazy with the mind games in this one, because the entire time, I thought that was actually happening in real time. And then she's receiving a call from Gemma while Gemma is driving the car, and then you flash, oh no, I'm the one driving. That was just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
She's driving the car. And she's like, you know, I don't think I want to be friends with you. Please stop calling me. Why do you keep leaving me these weird text messages? Leave me alone. Your mama home. I hope you die. Your feet stink. And you're like, oh my God. It's not real. So that was horrible. And then, but if you notice, a matter of convenience, what also happens? Morris calls the nurse.
Yep.
Meet me in Staten Island in this weird pizza place.
Yeah, and he answers right away. Yeah, meet me at Staten Island. It happens too convenient, way too fast. But that should be a red flag. Hey, something is off with this situation. This might not be real.
You know, that was horrible. But then we end up, you know, meet me in the freezer. I'm gonna stop your heart, which again never made any sense to any of us. But you know, her desperation again, and then that's when the monster, you finally see the entity when it's finally trapped you, with the whole jaws and the teeth and just disgusting. And I was like, ugh. But that's how she ends up being possessed. You know, she tries her very best to fight, but in the end, she just doesn't fight anymore. Yeah, she gives in. So then I'm kind of wondering, does she just want to die?
Well, at the point where she was using that needle and she injected it, she figured that she got him. She won. You know, it's just like the regular horror movie where you think you have defeated the creature or whatever. You have this line like, I got you. I won. We saw that many times with Freddy and Jason. The people got finished right after that. So yeah, it made sense for her to feel that way. But after, I think really the real when they reveal the twist of, oh, none of this is real. She wakes up, there's no needle, and then the creature is there. That is like, game over. At that point, it was over. So I think there's nothing else that she could do at that point. It was too late. She was too far gone. I would again say I think she was too far gone. The minute she left that house, left Lewis's place, that was it. Once the thing latches onto you, it's over. And again, they did a very good job of showing you just how extreme and brutal this entity is. Because in the first movie, it still took Rose some time before everything fell apart. Like it took a little bit of time. This movie here, it's like, no, from the very beginning, you were cursed. You were finished. So very interesting. Very aggressive too.
I also kind of equate it with like the location because in the first movie it was a really slow town.
Yeah,
People are
that's a good point.
doing slow things. And in New York City, fast, 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 and then you're a pop star, fast, 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 fast. So that's how I kind of equated it. But then, but then we had like the greatest ending ever ended.
Yeah.
When she is possessed, she starts smiling. She does that smile, and she gets up, and then she stabs herself in the eye with the microphone. But that's not the twist. The twist was she was at the concert the whole time. Performing. She came out, she performed, and stabbed herself in the eye. So everyone who watched her in that audience, remember, you get cursed if you watch the person die. Everyone, the mom's still alive. Joshua was like, hey. Everyone is still alive. The entire audience is horrified. And there's the curse. Everyone got it. The mom and everyone.
That was, I agree, a brilliant way to end the movie. Of course, just like in the first movie, when they showed the creature at the end and the creature opening the mouth of Rose, they didn't show all of that in this one, and they didn't need to because you saw how gruesome it was in that first movie. But again, the brilliancy of all of this is when she did this, the camera wasn't focused on her at all. It was focused on the reaction of the crowd, because that to me, obviously, from a directing standpoint, that was very intentional, because they don't want us to see that happening to the character, because if they have another movie, which I hope they do have many more movies, it's going to be about the other characters. We are watching what's happening to these other characters. We're not actually watching what happened to that character, because I just think they did an excellent job in terms of, and then of course for her to meet her on stage, yes, everything lines up perfectly. She was a performer, she was a pop icon, so it 100% made sense to have that ending. I think they did an outstanding job with that ending, and so many endless possibilities of what they can do because of all those people that witnessed this. And again, they can take somebody that was in that crowd. We don't know if this event was televised. So it clearly they can go in so many directions with the next movie. It will be interesting though, because we have never seen the creature infect multiple people. So that I think would be very interesting if that is the path that they take. Or if it's going to be just one particular person that they go after again. I'm curious, really curious to see how they handle that moving forward.
And here's something. Here's something I didn't think of. It's not just the audience, as you stated before. People video recorded it. It's going to be on somebody's YouTube. It's going to be on ET. And it's a death. People are gonna definitely watch. Oh, how did she die? Oh, and it's gonna be on them dark webs, anything. So as you said, this can go a million different ways. So then the real actual thing that what happened was she came back from out of rehab. She's doing rehearsals from the tour. Ouch, my back. She got the pills. She went to go see Lewis to get the pills. She ran out, so she continued the concert, and that's what I think happened.
Yep, and the way they manipulated time and made you think all this time has passed, all this other stuff. That was because the entire movie. Now, after I saw the twist at the end, I'm like, so this entire movie, none of this was real. A lot of this stuff wasn't real, but they made you think it was real, and it's a great point where people are going to be talking about, was that scene real or not? That's why I think that was very well done. But I agree with what you said. That's exactly what happened to her. So
I think it was brilliant. I would love again, there's so many possibilities because now everyone has seen it. It's like The Ring. Once you see it, you die. So there's so
Yep.
many different possibilities, and who even knows? Maybe we can go to like The Creature. And what does The Creature want? So we can
Well,
explore that. Who knows?
I do know that the director, after the first movie, the director did say he did think at some point he will explain the backstory of the creature, but I don't know when they're going to do that, because this movie here, and the funny thing is this: I haven't spoken to a lot of people yet, but the people that I have spoken to that have saw this, they said, "Oh, they better have a Smile 3 after that ending. They got to have another movie after that ending, because there's so many things that they can do." But yeah, hopefully at some point they will explain more about the backstory of this creature. But what I also am curious to see, because again, the creature looks unstoppable. I don't think that there's anyone that's going to be able to stop this creature. And I think that's a bit interesting. At the same time, it's interesting to know if eventually there will be somebody that will be able to stop it. But I don't think that's going to happen for quite some time, because again, if this movie does very well at the box office, they can continue making as many of these movies as they want to, as long as they have a good idea. So I'm curious to see which path they're going to take. But I can tell you this: I think we're going to definitely get another movie, though. After this movie, I think that ending, you got to see where this goes next.
Yeah. So yeah. So to me, overall, it was a great film that took the foundation of the first one, but then
Mhm.
build on it. It built and it used our arrogance, I would say, in a way, because we thought we knew everything. No, because like if we watched the first movie, like, oh well, I know how this is gonna happen because we've
Yep.
seen it.
Mhm.
But instead, it was like, you arrogant one. We're like 1,000 steps ahead of you, and you're thinking what you want to think. So here's what actually is happening. So I thought it was brilliant, and I need a sequel. And it was just they outdid themselves. They
Mhm.
truly outdid themselves. So, any final thoughts on Smile 2?
Oh yeah, for those that are curious about Smile, I strongly recommend you see the first movie, but you definitely need to see this movie. Like Dana said, that first movie is on Paramount. And funny thing is, Dana, you mentioned that I was the one that told you to see the movie. I also told a lot of my family and friends to see this movie, and they also said, "Oh, well, now they are curious about seeing the sequel." So but definitely, if you're curious, you're looking for a scary movie, this is a
Mhm.
great movie. I will once again say I personally think it is one of the best horror movies I've seen this year. I've seen some other movies. At some point, I will talk about those movies in the future when we talk about our end of the year stuff. But this movie has to be on the list somewhere, because it just, the way they handled a lot of things with the mind games, the horror. Yes, there are some jump scares in there, but I thought I don't have an issue with jump scares. When they're done well, and they had comedy in this as well. It had a lot of everything in this movie. So I would definitely recommend you check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely superb. It was a lot of jump scares. It was funny. It was really smart. I love the
Yeah.
use of mirrors. There's a lot of use of mirrors in here.
Mm-hmm.
So I love how everything is a reflection of yourself because you're a terrible person. But I loved everything about this movie. But yeah, so yeah, that basically is it for our take on Smile 2. Do you have anything you would like to comment?
Oh no, I will tell you all. Thank you for watching. Continue to check out the Koalition Entertainment channel here. Dana's going to be posting up a lot of stuff. The Koalition.com. We will also be posting up a lot of stuff on the website. But yeah, stay tuned. And a lot of other things are being worked on, but I don't want to talk about that yet. But stay tuned. A lot of great stuff coming. Thank you for your continued support. And if you did like this discussion, consider leaving a comment, subscribing to the channel, and liking the video. And let us know if you want us to do more of these discussions for sure in the future.
Yes, and we have a lot of penguins. Sorry. In the middle of New York Comic Con. So we did a lot of penguin interviews and panels that are already up on the channel right now. We have interviews will be coming. And we also doing the discussion for Penguin. We're going to do episode 4 and 5 on Sunday. So that should be a lot of fun having a discussion with Danny Martinez about that and diving into Sophia. And there will be a lot of other stuff from the panel. Spoke to Josh Brolin. That is already up on the channel. And we did a whole thing on Walking Dead with all of the actors, Norman Reedus, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, which is adorable. He recorded my actual interview for me after he turned the recording off by mistake. But yeah, no, he's wonderful. So we did that. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. We did the Chris Pratt and Billy, Millie Bobby Brown, and the Russo brothers, which, you know, Joe and Anthony Russo, they always have that face. So I was like, oh, maybe he was upset about coming back for Avengers. Now he just always looks like that. So that's just his natural face. It's just so wonderful. And we'll have more stuff coming up very soon in this week and weekend. So once again, my name is Dana. I was the host of this show. I am joined by Richard Bailey Jr. Have a great day, evening, afternoon, and we will see you again. Thank you, friends.